The Nightreign meta right now is a little bit weird, and the game is kind of in a bad spot, and in this video, we're going to talk about it. Now, in case you've been living under a rock, the meta that I am talking about is the yellow Evergaol relic that you can get from the Dark Knight Sovereign shop right outside of Roundtable Hold. This relic has literally changed the way people play because it is so incredibly powerful. Defeating enemies from an Evergaol is going to give you an attack power boost, and this boost is so astronomical that it is incredibly noticeable if you don't have this relic equipped by the time you fight the Night Lord. I'm going to show you two builds right here that are arguably very good builds, but one build has the Evergaol relic equipped and the other one doesn't. As you're going to see with these builds, that the first one here with the Evergaol relic is pouring out a ridiculous amount of damage and making the game way easier for you as a player than if you were to not have this relic equipped. Now, with this other build, the relics that I have are very good, and I'll show them right here for you on the screen. But because the Evergaol relic is not equipped, my damage is almost halved by how much less we are doing than if we did have this relic equipped. Now, some of you might be saying, well, there's no way that it can actually be that powerful to the point of it's making the game unplayable and not fun for the player base, but let me help you put this into perspective. If you get all 7 Evergaols done, then you are going to get a 40% increased damage boost. Now, typically people are not going to get all 7 of those Evergaols completed. However, they will get at least 5, which is going to still give you an astronomical damage boost compared to somebody who doesn't have this equipped. Now, don't get me wrong, I love doing a crazy amount of damage to Night Lords with a crit build and the Evergaol relic equipped, but this has made it so that you really can't put together builds in Nightreign without including this relic. And as somebody whose entire channel was based off of doing Elden Ring builds and Souls-like builds and the like, this is a little bit disheartening considering every build just becomes a one-trick pony with where the game currently is at. Now, the game has been set up to combat this relic a little bit, but it really isn't that big of a deal when you think about it. For example, obviously there's a lot of RNG in this game, and circle placement can be a big issue in terms of getting every single Evergaol unlocked, and you're also not going to be getting weapons from Evergaols. And having a very high level weapon is incredibly important, especially given some of the buffs and perks you get from a lot of the really good weapons, and God forbid you get the Grafted Blade Greatsword and just one-shot every single Night Lord you possibly can. And they've also built into the game different areas in which Stone Sword keys are going to spawn for you, the cathedrals and the smaller castles. Now, this still isn't a big enough inconvenience in my opinion, because sometimes, and I mean sometimes, like maybe 2 out of every 10 times that I'm looking in a cathedral or castle, I don't find a Stone Sword key. And typically when people are running the Evergaol relic anyway, they have another relic equipped giving them a Stone Sword key at the beginning of the game, which means you have to run around less to find those Stone Sword keys. If all 3 of your teammates have a Stone Sword key at the start and you have the Evergaol relic, you technically don't even need to go look for keys because you'll just naturally find them as you progress through Limfeld anyway. But regardless, I don't think that there's enough built in the game to keep this relic from being the literal best relic in the entire game by a long shot. Now, with the 3 minutes and 45 seconds of yapping out of the way, what can be done about this relic, if anything at all? Some people absolutely adore it, other people hate it, and I can see both sides of the argument. In my opinion, I do think it does need to be nerfed a little bit. I know a lot of people are not going to want to hear that, but even bringing the percentage of damage down you get for defeating an enemy is going to be enough to shift the meta to figure out another way to do a lot of damage within Elden Ring Nightreign. I think this would reignite some of the builds that people could make or replace the Evergaol relic with, but there has been no news at all on whether or not this relic is going to be left alone, or if they even are aware that this is where the meta currently is. Now, the other portion of this meta as we move away from the Evergaol relic that I wanted to discuss is the fact that doing Limfeld without any shifting earths at all is completely pointless. All of us by this point have a ton of Everdark Sovereign points to spend and can just use it on shifting Earths whenever we would like, But in my opinion, there's only 2 shifting earths that are absolutely worth doing. Not to say that I don't like them all, but Noclateo and the Rotted Woods are the only shifting earths that I consistently put in rotation in order to do as much damage as humanly possible and ensure that there is a level 15 Night Lord fight at the end of the expedition. First off, let's start with Noclateo. Noclateo is one of, if not the best shifting earth on account of all the different bosses and enemies you can find inside, as well as Estelle, who gives you an extra life. And typically the weapons you find in Noclateo are always going to be way better than anything else you find anywhere else on the map. Noclateo has so many different legendary spawns between the corpses you can check, which have a 5 to 15% chance on giving you a random legendary for just checking the corpse. And the majority of the time that I go through Noclateo, I typically end up with a legendary that you can dupe. This is an absolutely broken way to play this game, especially if you're doing duos, but this also works with trios as well. Finding an awesome weapon, then duping it to 2 or 1 of your teammates just allows you to break the boss at the end of the game incredibly easily. And because of this, it's completely pointless to try to do Limveld without a shifting earth, as you know the drops aren't going to be as good, and there's no ability to dupe a weapon if you're not doing Noclateo. Now moving over into the shifting earth of the Rotted Woods has so many high-level bosses in it that you're going to have a ton of different options to get really, really good weapons. Now, you can't dupe anything in the Rotted Woods, however, because all the bosses are so clumped together, you are not going to be running all over Limveld. You'll just be in the bottom right-hand corner where you can very quickly down about 6 different high-level bosses that are going to net you some type of fantastic weapon, regardless of what you've been able to find on the map so far. Now, what can be done about both of these incredible shifting earths? And honestly, I don't think anything can be done until they give us DLC with potentially new shifting earths that will be just as good or better than Noclateo and the Rotted Woods. It's already pretty pointless, in my opinion, to play Limveld as a solo player with no shifting earths selected, but having just Noclateo and the Rotted Woods is going to get very boring very quickly. And I think that's the theme of the video so far, is that some of these things that are happening right now aren't necessarily bad for the short term, but for the long-term longevity of the game, having the exact same run, doing the exact same thing, having the exact same build, those are all pieces of a recipe that is going to cause the player base to leave because the game is just going to get boring. It is very fun for a time to be incredibly overpowered, but we are Souls players and eventually we are going to want that challenge back. But what do you guys think of where the meta is currently for Elden Ring Nightreign? I know I'm personally fine with it for now, but I can definitely see that this is going to become a problem in the very near future. Are you guys excited about what's going on? Do you guys want it to change? Are you just waiting for DLC and have high hopes for that? Regardless, I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. So if you watched the end of the video, thank you so much. Make sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification on the way out. And until next time, guys, stay safe, enjoy the game, and I'll see you in the next one.